Hey, so for a really quick intro, it's June 7th. This is Christina's Voce, and it's also been a while. Um, the reason I want to do a quick intro is because I don't want to lose my train of thought. I just thought of what I wanted to talk about, and I didn't want it to escape me, which was basically earlier today, I was watching this girl, Meghan Lavota, and it was like so random that she was talking about people who don't explain themselves well. And the reason that for me stuck out, because I wasn't looking for that type of video. It was just like, when you click on that one part of YouTube where it's just like, oh, random things, like not trending or anything, but it's just like random things based on, I think it's the home button. I don't know. But it's based on like some things that you've watched, but it's not really the people that you normally watch. So anyways, the reason it stuck out was because for a while, or was it yesterday, I was going through all of my full memory cards and of all the stuff that I hadn't put up online in a long time, but I had already recorded. And I was trying to think, like, what is the point of me having, I think I have like 4 or 5 YouTube accounts if I'm not consistent. And then the reason I'm not consistent is because it seems really, really hectic for me, or it seems like a really big burden for me to put things online. Like, the process of me thinking of ideas is so simple and intuitive, and it just like in one day I'll go for a walk and I'll have like 5 different ideas that pop up into my mind, and I write them down and I put them everywhere. And it's like on my phone there's ideas, and my notebooks are ideas, and my journals are ideas. Like it's almost like, oh man, like ideas come to me so quickly, and they're ideas that I think are cool and easy. In my mind, they seem easy, and like I can imagine from beginning to end. Woo, sorry. I'm like talking so fast and I'm like breathing into the mic. So they're cool and easy, and I can imagine from beginning to end like what they would look like. But then when I go to film, it's like a hot mess. So like even this media, this platform of podcasting made everything much easier because I don't have to control like what I'm wearing or what I look like or the lighting or anything like that. And the files are like super small too. So like I can just, it's easier and faster to upload to YouTube, even if it's like over an hour. But then on my vlog channel, it becomes even worse mess, because as soon as I sit down to try to talk, after getting the camera settings up and running, after getting enough space on my memory cards, because like video with the camera that I have takes up way more space. And then when I have to sit down and talk and also like control my facial features and things like that, it just falls apart, like completely 100% falls apart. And it's like all really, really awkward to edit, and it's not like fluid or anything like that. And then because I have to edit so much, it's like another burden. Like I'm like, oh, I don't want to get in there because it's like all choppy, and sometimes like all of the settings that I chose were wrong. So like now I don't really even have visual, which means I could have just did a podcast and saved myself a bunch of headache to begin with. But I say all that to say that I keep asking myself, like, what is the purpose? Like, why even do this if it seems like it's such a pain in the butt for me? Like, it is not a very like airy-fairy, easy process for me. And for a long time, I used to do things like that. Like I used to do super hard things that were annoying. And for me, the value came from how hard they were. It's like maybe they weren't hard for other people, but it was hard for me. And I liked doing hard things because I felt accomplished, and it felt like I was putting my energy in the right type of places when I did that, except that it wasn't really good for me. And it was like very draining, and I'd feel overwhelmed, and so overwhelmed that I wouldn't want to start. And then I had this like perfectionism cycle. And so I decided recently, like 2017, not to do things that were draining, to flow towards things that seem easy for me. So again, why am I saying this? Because the ideas seem easy to me, and I just in my free time study other vlogs and things like that. So it seems like it would be easy, but it's not. And if I look at what's happening in terms of my media management and my storage management, and even the way that I like the little things like notes on editing, like how to denoise a video, like even that stuff gets lost in a jumble and it's not organized in a way that would help me. So if that's the case, why do it? Which is what I was telling myself for, I think, since April. Because I was vlogging. No, I wasn't vlogging. I was doing podcasts consistently for a while, and then I took a big break, and then I did it again in April. And I was like, well, I'm not going to do it consistently because what's the point? Like, it's not a thing that flows for me. And even if I have ideas and even if I sit down to record my ideas, I don't get them up. So this is a sign that this is not for me. Until I heard Meghan Lavota talk, which if this turns you off, that's fine. But she does like NLP styles. And I know a lot of people don't like that because it's like typecasting and it's oversimplified. And the people who follow typecasting type videos, they tend to be of the rigid side. So like they just use it as a way of saying like, well, this is who I am and that's why I don't have to change. And that's kind of obnoxious. And then you can think of people in your minds who you're like, I really don't like that person and I don't like them because of X, and now they have an excuse to be like X, and that's really even worse. Like, why would we want the world just to stay the same? Why wouldn't people want to improve? So usually that's the scenario. And I probably, some people who follow her are like that. I don't know. I don't look at the comments, and it was my first time ever seeing her and her channel. But she also follows another account called Dave Powers or something like that. I forgot. And he does similar things where they are not advocating that people stay the same. They're also not advocating that you live and die by your type. They just use your type in order to help you find and discover the ways which you're moving through the world and help you. They highlight how you're doing it just as like this is like a matter of fact thing. And they also highlight how you might want to do it, or where your difficulties are stemming from. And so what she mentioned was that one of the reasons that I'm struggling is because I don't know, it was like intuitive something, I don't remember what it was, that it makes me not fill in the blanks of what my ideas are. So basically what's happening is that when I have ideas and they come up to my head and then I laugh out loud, like, oh, this is so easy and so interesting, I'll do it. All the stuff that's in my head when I sit down to like try to record it or express it, it doesn't come out. I think it's coming out, but it's not coming out. So when I edit, it's not fluid. When I write the idea down, the idea looks like a 30-second idea. Like in my head, I'm like, oh, how am I going to expand this teeny tiny idea to, 5 minutes, when actually the idea, it could be like an hour and a half long, but I don't see it. And because in my head, I'm like, oh, X equals, like I'll go like, oh, A, B, P, Q, Z, easy. But it's like, no, you have to say all the letters in between. And if you don't say all the letters in between, it comes out crazy. And sometimes too, even when I'm in the middle of explaining something, I realize like, oh, I'm losing the point, and oh, this is actually not turning out the way I want to, but I still want to get to Z, and I don't know how to get to Z, and I already skipped Q, and I'm already over here, and I start to get flustered and annoyed in the middle of doing things sometimes, and it kind of makes everything feel overwhelming because it's like I'm not even getting my point across, everything is jumbled, and I have a backlog of other things too that are similar that I don't want to redo, and it just becomes the same problem over and over again. Except what she offers is that maybe because I have this problem is why I should continue to make videos, which I never considered before. I never considered that because this is my flaw. Sorry, I just wanted to make sure I was recording. I was going to have a panic attack. It's like 9 minutes in. What she was saying is because this is my flaw, because it's hard for me to organize my storage, because it's hard for me to stay on topic, because it's hard for me to communicate my idea fully in a way that another person who doesn't think, and I think it's like intuitive judging or intuitive thinking, because I need to practice talking to people who don't think the way that I think, that this is the point of making the videos. Like, it's practice. And she made another interesting point, which I hadn't realized, because I often feel misunderstood by people. And I used to think like, oh, well, they don't understand me, but they're also not clear and they don't understand each other. And so like it's them that they don't understand. And there are other people who definitely 100%, even with me being as vague or as terse as I am, not only understand me, but like enjoy the way that I communicate. So I used to think that like, oh, I just have to find the right person to communicate with and problem solve. But what she was saying was, if I wait to do that, I won't have the opportunity to express my ideas, because the chances of me finding people who think like me in my style of thinking, filling in the gaps for me, is really low, because it's not that I'm the only person who does that. There are other people, but it just tends to be the minority, except when I live in other countries where it is like that. So like, for example, built into the grammar in Japan, they just drop off sentences and it is assumed what they meant, and it is usually correctly assumed by everyone listening what they meant. And it was really easy for me to communicate there, because even if I didn't have all the words, I can put out the sentiment of what I meant and then float away, and then people would even fill in the gaps, and they would fill in the gaps correctly. Or even for jokes, like I could just trail off and then both of us would know what the joke was and laugh. And I was like, oh, in this country, it is a very natural, like the thing that I do where I just assume that that person knows after just me explaining maybe 2 seconds of where I'm coming from, they can know what the meaning was. And that's just how it is in that country. Like the majority of the people in Japan, I think they have the highest concentration of INTJ. And in general, they are just more introverted, intuitive types. And that's the type of explaining or whatever that she was saying that I have. And then in comparison to the US, where people explain things, I forgot what it's called because I'm not really big on typecasting, but it's basically based more on like sensory. And she was just saying that people will take more time to explain themselves, and that's considered normal. So it's like, it's not that other people are more clear than I am, it's just that they'll spend more time explaining themselves and expressing themselves until they are understood. And so I didn't like to do that, number one. And two, I used to assume that, well, okay, why didn't I like to do that? Because I used to think that it was unnecessary. It's like, if you don't understand me now, then you don't want to understand me. And if you can't understand me now, you probably won't understand me with 5 more minutes of explaining. So why do this? And then I was also thinking that it's just a wash. Like, let's just move on. There's better ways to use our time. I would just assume that avenue is closed. Like, that person's not going to understand what I mean in this moment, and that's fine. We'll just move on. It's not really working out for me. I mean, it does and it doesn't work out for me. It's like everyday life. I don't care. Like if I'm just talking to someone casually and it's just like small talk, then it doesn't matter if they understand my background. But if it is like what I'm doing right now, working with other people on a project, it actually ends up mattering, at least for me, because I want to feel understood. I want to feel part of the team. And I can't feel part of the team if the first 10 seconds of all of my sentences get cut off. And they'll say, I know, or you're already doing that. And in my head, I'm thinking, well, no, I'm not. That's why I'm bringing this up, because I'm not on board, or you guys aren't on board with what I'm thinking. And that's why I raised the question. But they'll be like, no, yeah, it's the same. And then later on, we'll find out, no, it's not the same, And it's like, for me, it's a week wasted because of a moment of not understanding. So it's like, could I have taken out more time, maybe 3 minutes, maybe 5 minutes, to explain something that will save us an hour, a lost hour, or even a lost week, because we only meet once a week right now? I hadn't decided yet, I was like, I don't know if it's worth it, and I don't think I can even achieve what I want in 5 minutes. But that was the point, again, that she was making. She's like, yeah, probably you can't do it in 5 minutes right now. I mean, she didn't even really say it like that. She's just saying you probably can't do it at all. But the way that you're going to get better at it is by practicing. And by practicing, you need to do it often. And she recommended, or she said that for herself, she does it by making YouTube videos. And I'm already doing that. So now I found my reason again for having to make videos, which is exciting. I mean, it's as exciting as it is You know what it is? It's that it's like when you're doing something that sucks, you're like, what's the point of this? I'm like, oh, thank you. I have my point back, you know? There's a reason that it's worth it to go through the headache. And it's nice to know too that it will get better. And it's also nice to know why it was bad, you know? Because sometimes I feel like I watch other people do it and it seems really easy on the outside. And even when I watch their editing process or whatever, it still seemed way easier and rewarding than what I was doing. And I was like, well, then it's just not for me. Like, it's not working out for me. Or I'm just not going to do it anymore, because if it's that easy for other people and it's this hard for me, I'm probably using the wrong platform or whatever. Even though I think, did I say this before? I was like talking to like a type of, I don't know what to call her, like a psychic lady or something or whatever. And she was telling me like, if I asked her about work. This is months ago. I asked her about work and she said that I need to master media. Not that I need to master media, but like that media and marketing kind of like on like media platforms were going to be the way that I not achieve success, but like they were going to be important to any work endeavor that I did, which was really vague because at the time I was like technically without clients and unemployed and like floating. So I was like, oh, okay. Like, I don't know what that's going to pertain to because I wasn't connected to anything. Like, it was just like right after I got married and I had just moved my whole life over into a new state. So I was like, oh, I have nothing concrete to connect that to. So I just figured I should be better at social media. Oh yeah, she mentioned social media too. It's like that I should be better at social media and YouTube and all of that. And then flash forward to right now, or like I guess a week ago, when I was just like, nah, it's probably not for me because I'm really bad at expressing myself on those platforms. And then I think too, like I even had her watch a few of my videos from my business account and she was just like, yeah, what was like that one video where you're like showing your lunch and stuff? I was like, oh yeah. She's like, yeah, that was really cool, except that you were reading and it sounded like very stilted and awkward. And I was like, great. Well, at that time, that was the easiest way for me to write down my thoughts clear, or get my thoughts online clearly, which was to write them and then do like a voiceover over other images. But yeah, I guess it was really bad. And it's annoying because when I did radio, I had a training for that. Like, we had to read the, what was they called? We couldn't call them advertisements because technically it was a nonprofit, so they weren't advertisements. They were called something else. And you're supposed to read them naturally. Like, you're supposed to talk like, hey, this song was blah, blah, blah. And also, did you know that on Tuesdays, if you want to, there are gardening projects in the city? Oh man, it's crazy, right? Like, you're supposed to like interject the whole thing and make it sound natural and not break so that the listener wouldn't feel alienated or sold to. Yeah, and I was actually pretty good at that. Like, I remember my instructor being like, wow, you're like really natural at that. And I felt natural at it. And even when I heard myself, it sounded really good. Like, I never had any issues with that. And now, years later, I guess I lost the skill. I don't know. Or maybe it's because it's my own writing, so it comes across differently, or I'm writing it poorly. I don't know. But it definitely doesn't work anymore. And it was like in a very nice way. Someone else told me like, yeah, no. So I'm doing this new format, which I have like a whiteboard next to me and there are like bullet points, like general bullet points. And the bullet points aren't like, talk about this, talk about that. It's like the first sentence of the next topic. So it'll be like intro, which I did already. And even for me, saying the intro is really annoying. Like, oh, I don't want to say the date or hi or my name or the channel or whatever. But then later on when I'm editing, I'm like, what the heck? When was this? Like, so yeah, it does help. And then I put down difficulty and what I didn't know and what I'm glad to be working on now, you know. And it sounds dumb, but it's like I need that structure because when I'm talking, I'll go from, hey, it's June 7th to, and that's why I'm making videos again. And it's just in my head, I had said everything when really I didn't say anything, you know? And then I also have to write details like the name of that woman, Meghan Lavota. So I will literally have an idea for a podcast or a vlog based off like a key person, and I won't know their name even when I'm thinking of the idea, and then I won't even save their name anywhere, and it's like all lost and I don't want to look it up. So I'll start a whole project based on someone who's like a creator or an idea or a title of a book that I don't remember. And even before I shoot, I don't even think to write down that name or go look it up. I'm like, oh, it's fine, they'll figure it out. And then I'm like, oh, I'll just link it, and then I won't link it because I don't know where it is, and I'm like, I don't care. And it's just like, what was I expecting people to do? Like, what am I... I can't telepathically through a video get people on board with all these like little details if I don't have them prepared, you know? But then again, the sensory part of all of this, which is sensory part, think of it as like the it's really funny, I have a story about this later, but it's like the things, it's like, okay, you're good at your job, but did you remember to brush your teeth this morning? You know, like, oh, you're good at your job, but like, why aren't your clothes ironed? Like, it's kind of like the more, not just mundane, but like the physical, day-to-day, tangible things that a normal human being needs to do. Those are the things that I tend to want to brush, like sweep under the rug. Like, those are the things where I'm just like, man, just not do those things. Like, I don't want to know how to spell this. I don't care to write down the correct email address, you know? Those are the things that I'm just like, ugh, it slows you down. Like, what's the point? Just keep moving, you know? But those are the things I need to master. And I'm trying not to think of it as in a negative way, like, oh, I need to master it because I suck at it. What I'm trying to now feel and think is like, hey, if you can master those little things to the point where you don't even think about it, like it's not a burden, everything's going to be much better. Because then there's nothing in my mind and there's nothing in my workflow that I'm like, oh, I don't want that, you know? Like, if I can find easy or fun or just really light ways of managing that, then it's almost like I don't have any more dark spots in my life. Does that make sense? So like now when I look at my week, I'm not like, oh no, I gotta clean the toilet. I'm dreading it like all month or all week or whatever, all day. It'll just be like a easy thing that I can do, or it's just always done because I'm like, oh yeah, it's like easy. Like sometimes when you're in there, you can just throw soap in there and then take a shower, or you know, the opposite, like wash your face and then throw soap in the toilet, and by the time you finish washing your face, you can scrub the toilet and then you feel dirty and now you can take a shower and you're good and it's done and you don't have to schedule it or think about it. It's just a really fast, easy thing. And like, how are you going to make it fast and easy? Well, I'll have the soap always next to the blah blah blah, and then the scrubber will always be there, you know, just kind of make it like a natural flow where I'm not having to sit down and like think about how to do it in the moment. And that's the thing that used to be like a real problem for me, you know, like I hated washing dishes so much that I wouldn't have dish soap. So then when I do have to wash dishes, I have to like do this epic thing. Or like I now always have clean sponges, because for me using old sponges is like gross. So like if I get that feeling in that moment like, oh, this is gross, I have clean sponges under the sink all the time. So it's just little things like that, and I'm hoping to integrate some of those little things into my own like little mini production that I have at home, because I have a lot of like cool equipment, and I learned editing things, and like there's a lot of things that I could be doing and playing around with, but it's like all held back by the fact that I can't manage my media or manage myself while I'm filming. Sorry, there's an eyelash in my eye. I'm trying to get it out before I die. Yeah, but that was really exciting. And I also get really excited when I see my stuff online. Like, I mean, for a while it was only like 4 videos per channel. And then even on one of my channels, like a lot of my channels have no subscribers, but one of them does. And it even gets like decent views for the channel, not each video. And I get excited when I see that, but it's like, I'm never going to get any more of that unless I can learn to put more videos out, put more videos out faster and like in a regular fashion for whatever reason, you know, like the algorithms definitely favor like regular content and things like that. So I'm just trying not to work against myself and trying to find fun and happy ways to get the sensory stuff in order. So anyways, the funny story is that, I guess I'll just say it here because like no one follows this podcast anyway, but I got casted for a movie and it's my first movie ever, and I had zero intention to be an actress or anything like that. I just saw a casting call and I was like, sure, why not? And it was like for like a martial arts type, like it's not supernatural, but it's kind of like those like Asian-y martial arts movies where there's like fighting and stuff. So I was like, oh yeah, I want to do fight scenes and whatever. And then I like that genre already of movie. And it's here, and they did an open casting call, and then they picked me, and then they gave me a semi-leading role. So I was like, okay, fine, whatever, I'll do it. So anyways, I joined the cast, and I don't know what to expect because I've never been a part of anything like that before. And when I meet the people there, it's really funny because have you ever heard like that people are a mirror to you? And it's not just like every person on the street is a mirror to you. You know, like, sure, fine. Like, it's hard. It's a big stretch to imagine that, like, the person driving behind you in traffic is a mirror of you. But even more so when you work in a group, they're saying that the reason you even gravitated towards anyone in that group is because you guys are in some way connected. So, like, if I'm gravitating to a movie because it's of its production value and in its location and whatever genre, then it's because then the other people there are there for similar reasons. So we basically, even though we've never met and we don't even know what to expect, we have some commonality. So when I met the cast, and like everyone is super different. Like it's so different. It's like from people from Hungary to like the director's Indonesian, you know, like it's just a big range of people, and it feels like everyone there is a mirror of me, which is why I often in my head will laugh. Like someone will say something and I'll be like, oh my God, I feel and think the same way. And then I'm listening to someone who feels and thinks the same way as me talk out loud, and it sounds hilarious. Like it sounds I don't want to put a judgment on it, but like some things sound like ridiculous. And I'm like, is that what I sound like? Or the type of things that I don't care about, I'm watching someone else not care about it, and then from a distance it's like, man, no, you kind of have to care about that because you look crazy. Like you look crazy if you don't care about it. And it's just funny because when it's yourself, you always have your own defenses about why you do and don't do things, and it seems really justifiable in your mind, and it seems fine, and you just feel like when people ask you certain things or come at you that they're attacking you. But then when you see it in someone else and there's like no ego defense because it's not you, and you hear like almost the verbatim what you like your thought process, it sounds and looks insane. Like it just doesn't, it's just so funny how off it is, or how it looks to the outside. Like, oh yeah, that's clearly a defense. Like you're clearly just, you know, it's just like it's just I don't know, let me think of a good example. I'm trying to think of an example that's good and real, but that if someone on the cast were to find this, they wouldn't feel offended. So that's why it's like I'm being careful with my words. But here's a light one. So I don't have any of the contacts from anyone in the group, right? Like even from the first day that we met, they're like, oh, meet here at this time. And the area that they chose was so open that it could have been like meet in the parking lot, meet in the lobby of this place, meet outside under a tree. Like it was just such an expansive area, and I was like, wow, I really don't know where to meet. But there was no other further instructions, and it's like via email with a bunch of people. And I was like, well, it's too late now. I probably should have asked for specifics earlier, but now I'm here and I don't know what's going on. And so when I meet these people who organized it later on, they tell me things like, oh yeah, details and things like that. Like I don't need to like update the call list, and I don't need to do X, Y, and Z, you know, like I'm good at this. I'm not good at the secretary stuff. And they're like, yeah, I'm not good at secretary stuff. We're like creative people and blah, blah, blah. And I just started laughing because I was like, yeah, that is, or was, or whatever is me. Like I cannot, like, if you look at my, well, I'll just use my voicemail. Like, my voicemail is so full that no one can leave me a voicemail. And the reason it's so full is because I decided a long time ago that I hate voicemail because I hate having to call people back. And I hated it so much that when I changed my phone and they were like, hey, you need to change your password, like set it up, I didn't. And then I was like, oh man, if it's not set up here and I can't access it, I'm going to have to go into the store to do it. No, I'm just not going to do that. So now I forever have a voicemail account that I can't access and is always full. And like people who are organized and who do work in the world where it's like you need to contact people and you would prefer to have so many avenues for people to do so, they're always like, well, I just want to let you know that your voicemail is full. And I'm like, oh, okay, thank you. And then like, let's say that's like from a bank or whatever, and then they'll call me again, like, well, yeah, your voicemail is still full. Like, remember we talked about that? And I'm like, yeah. Like in my head, I'm like, I'm never going to make it unfull because I just don't care. And it's the process is like, no. Like in my mind, I'm like, well, yeah, so work around it. Like text me. And then for them, they're like, we're not friends, like you're a businesswoman and I'm a business person. I'm not going to start communicating with you in a nonsensical way. Like just clear out your voicemail. Like for people who are organized, it just seems crazy. And for me, I'm just like, well, they're just difficult. But now when I see these two other people, like it's like that they're like two high profile people within the group. So it's just funny to have them both defend their stance on like, no, yeah, like we're not good at that and we don't care. Like that's not our strength. Our strength is this and that. And like, yeah, we don't like the secretary type work. And they were like really like, yeah, that stuff that doesn't in any way reflect on us because we're over here, we're all of this stuff. And I just started laughing. I was like, oh my God, this is what I look like. And I didn't just get it from myself. Like I know that I got it from my dad because my dad is good at a lot of things, talking to people, leading groups and things like that. And people really like him. And when he enters in a community, like everyone from the dry cleaner lady to like someone he's coached like 15 years ago, they'll remember him, they'll remember me. Like he just really influences people. But the thing is, like if you went into his car, it'd be filled with receipts, like everywhere, dirty, like the food that he ate 2 weeks ago, just a bunch of stuff that is just nonsense. It's like, why are you saving receipts from when he went to 7-Eleven? Like, why do you literally have 25 of them everywhere all the time? And so when I was younger, I didn't like that. But I see, or that's something I worked on a little bit, but I see like, oh yeah, I definitely became like immune or numb to seeing that. And even if when I saw someone else like neater, I would just assume like, oh, I'm basically like that. Like I couldn't see how bad or off I was. And I also couldn't see that I was like compensating for like if I thought I was neat, but then someone called me out on always having like a broken phone, like my screen on my phone would usually be broken because I'm like, oh, I'll fix that later and it's not broken yet. In my head, I'm like, well, it's just one thing. Like they're just picking on me. It's just one thing. It's not a big deal. But I wouldn't see that one thing is like in the collective of other things that are going wrong. Like I have like holes in my shirt and clothes and things like that. And I was like, oh my God, those people are me. Like I'm much better now and I'm more conscious of it. And I like regularly go through my closet, make sure everything is like, if it's done, it's done. I'll throw it out right away and things like that. But I'm like looking at these two people who definitely represent all the things I used to think were okay and like excuse. And like for me too, when I look at them, I don't judge them as incompetent or whatever because of that, but I just see clearly where their strengths and weaknesses are and how they negotiate away any judgment that it wasn't even judgment. It's just kind of like a, hey, why do we have like, why do I always miss emails, or like, hey, why don't I have anyone's contact? Or I think even at this point I haven't signed my own contract, which they may or may not know. I'll have to bring it up. But when you just bring up little things like that, all of a sudden like their wall goes up. And it's not like they're not angry. It's like a funny wall. It's just, even for me, it's even funnier because it's like, oh yeah, I know what you're doing. I also know why you can't see yourself. And hopefully one day you will get a reflection of you so that you can see how funny you look when you do what you do. But yeah, this is my little extroverted sensory video. I think that's just what it's going to be. I do have like a channel dedicated to what's going on in the movie. So I guess I'll put that in the description box or something like that if you want to follow along what's going on there. It's not really like a vlog style, like, hey, this is what I'm doing, ha ha ha. It's more kind of like how this is, except with my face. What I mean by that is like I'll be on camera because I'm practicing, again, expressing myself, but also doing so, controlling my facial movements and being on camera. And what else was I going to say about that? Oh, and I already said, like, they're not going to be good vlogs in terms of the editing because the process, like along with telling you guys the story and the evolution of myself in this cast and like being in my first movie role, I'm also practicing how to edit and organize my day and organize the footage and organize what I show you and things like that. So, I mean, I don't know how much longer, probably more than a year, you should expect terrible videos from me because this is so far, the podcast account is like the best version of myself. I just feel more natural when I'm not being watched and I can just be in my pajamas and like I'm recording in the bathroom right now because it's where I have the most control. But when I'm on camera, I don't want to record in here, and then the audio is off, and then the lighting and just a whole bunch of other variables that I haven't been able to control yet. So if anyone has met me from here and is going to the other channels, welcome to chaos, because that's what it gets like over there. And I think that's all I wanted to say for now. But thanks for listening. It was really great to get this off my chest. I haven't told anyone that I know, friends or family, really about the video or the movie or any of this. So it's like really nice that I have an outlet for that, even if I think no one listens. And I also really appreciate this like long format that's started to be okay on YouTube now that there's like Joe Rogan and Bill Burr and all that. The other people who do podcasts is what I'm trying to say. So yeah, I am feeling really good and grateful and nice and silly and playful right now. And it's such a good feeling. And I like that I have a space to be those things in. I hope that anyone listening also creates a space like that for themselves, especially if you're really serious. If you're like a really serious, stiff person and you feel weighed down by like your own expectations and perfectionism, I really do hope that you find an open medium for expressing yourself that also gives you the potential to meet other people and like, community and connect with other people via your weaknesses. But that, they don't see you for your weaknesses, like they appreciate you for them. Okay, that's enough. I think I'm done for today. Bye.